Hello, my name is Danny Hicks, and I worked on the UX design, and I was the project manager for the Plumbers Unite project. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what I did to contribute as a project manager and also a UX designer, and kind of some of the tools that I used and things like that. Here I'm starting you guys off with our homepage. So this was the final design that we ended up with, but I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit how we got here in the first place. So let me go back to our files here. So first and foremost, I wanted to talk to you guys about how we were able to use Figma for a lot of the planning, the design portion of it, and I also used Figma to build a working prototype of the site before we actually started coding, and that was very, very helpful. So I'll show you our planning area here. This area was somewhere that we used to just do some basic plans. So this was our first little area. We have a card sort that we used to map out the objects. We were able to also make user flow diagrams and things like that of how a user journey would be, trying to schedule a service, things like that. We also used this as kind of like a preliminary to-do area and just a way to house the syllabus and make sure everything that we were talking about was on track. So kind of a little project management and UX design there. From here, once we kind of got some things fleshed out, I will take you to the prototype that I created. So I created the client side of the website and the admin side of the website as a low fidelity wireframe. So you can see there's no styling here. It's just gray, but really what this was for was to map out how things should look, and also map out how things should connect to each other. And so just really quickly, I'll show you how the prototype works. And so this would be our homepage, definitely different than the first one I showed you, but you can kind of see that there's some similarities of how we set it up. So with this prototype, you are actually able to click and see how things connect. So this would go to your schedule a service call area with the services listed out. And again, this is really just for the team to use to see how things connect and really just see how things are supposed to flow. So I believe that was really, really helpful, just to have a reference point for everybody to go back to if they had questions and whatnot. So let me get out of this. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. Once I had everything mapped out, we had a couple meetings over it just to kind of maybe tweak some things and talk about how things might work. We jumped right into coding with HTML and CSS. I also used a framework called Bootstrap to help me design the pages. And Bootstrap is really good because it is responsive. It helps your pages become responsive, and it has a lot of built-in tools for you to use. So knowing those tools, I kind of made a style guide here that I'm going to show you guys. So before I went in and started doing my thing, I decided to create a custom logo for Plumbers Unite. I made this in Adobe Illustrator, and decided to use the 2 wrenches because, of course, they're plumbers uniting for the cause of fixing, leaks and helping clients. So that's just a little bit of background on that. Typography, I use Montserrat. I really like that font. I think that it's kind of wider and kind of gives like a sense of kind of like friendliness, but it's still very, I think it's still very professional. Got some imagery here, just really wanted to keep that basic, like high resolution images of workers and just showing, people really doing their best and being happy while they're doing that. And some basic icons, just to show you kind of how things are supposed to look. So once I had a feel for what the actual visual language of the site would be, I was able to put together our final website. And of course, this took some tweaking and things like that, but and I think it came together pretty nicely. Okay, and to close out my section of the video, I just wanted to kind of take you to our services page, which we did end up changing some of the functionality of that. So instead of having all the services listed out, we ended up going with some collapsible menus and sorting them by what type of service they were so that people were able to find them faster. So of course we have the repair services, and then you'd be able to mark which service you'd like by using the check boxes. We have install services, and we have maintenance services, and the image next to the service would kind of give you an idea of what it was. So yeah, and we this is just to kind of show you some of the styling that I did here, and yeah, overall I thought it was a really great project. One more thing I will show you here is we did use Notion to keep track of all of our project tasks. That was something that we were kind of struggling with in the middle of doing things. It was kind of difficult to keep track of things in Figma, and then we also use Discord to talk back and forth. So the guys and I got together and tried to think about what we could do to kind of have like somewhere where we could manage the tasks. So Notion was, I think, a great way to do that. I had heard of Notion, heard of other designers using Notion. And we use a similar program at my current job, but this was really, really great because we were able to put...
My name is Milo, and I was in charge of the database design for Plumbers Unite. I started off creating a relationship table to determine how I wanted to structure our database. We needed to be able to store customer, employee, schedule, address, and employment data, so I made a table for each of those categories. The customer table stores all the customer information. These columns include the username, password, first name, last name, phone number, and email for the customers. The final column is the address ID. This address ID matches the primary key on the address table. And this table includes a column for the previously mentioned address ID, columns for the customer street address, the city, state, and the zip code. Next, we have the employee table, which is very similar to our customer table. This table includes the username, password, first name, last name, phone number, and email for every employee working at Plumbers Unite. Additionally, this table has a department column to determine which department the employee belongs to, and a schedule ID. This schedule ID is reflective of the schedule ID column in the schedule table. The schedule table includes columns for the schedule ID, which days of the week the employees are working, shift start times, and shift end times. And lastly, we have our appointment table. The appointment table stores all scheduled appointments for Plumbers Unite. Each appointment has its own appointment ID, which is stored in the first column. And also in this table, we have columns for the assigned employee, and then we see the customer that scheduled the appointment. The service being provided during the appointment along with the appointment date and times are also stored in this table. After I finished the relationship table, I went over to my SQL Workbench and created a schema to hold our database. Once the schema was established, I was able to type up the SQL query to create all of our needed tables, and I was able to insert sample data into these tables. After verifying that the query ran without error, I connected my SQL Workbench with Microsoft Access, and I imported the Plumbers Unite database into Access so it could then be used by other team members.
Hi, my name is Kimberly. I go by Kai. I was to assist the project manager with HTML backup and the assistant project manager with database input. My main function was to head up the animation and videography for the video presentation at the end of the project and informationals during the project.
Here is the Manage Jobs page. This is for the admin to manage the existing jobs.